Welcome to Go Off and Create the Podcast. I'm your host, Cam, and today we have Carline Hooker with us. And this is her first podcast, so I'm really excited. Carline, what do you do? Like, what do you have going on?
Okay, so I am the founder of an organization called NetworKIT, and we help teach people to see relationships beyond transactions and do that at scale.
At scale. So beyond transactions, like what is that? What exactly do you mean?
So I think about, nowadays, particularly when we think about networking and building relationships, a lot of people tend to see it as like means to an end. Like I'm trying to get something, I'm trying to accomplish something, or on the receiving end, we feel that way. Like when we're meeting new people and we're trying to like network, which is that like terrifying word. So it's all about helping people do that in a more authentic way by looking at it beyond trying to get something from someone or someone trying to get something from me, and doing that in a way that I can build a network of people, build relationships at scale.
Okay, awesome. And when did you start NetworKIT?
Oh my goodness. October of 23 is when I kind of first got the idea, and then we officially launched February of 24. It's like we're a year old.
Yeah.
It's like 1 year anniversary. Yeah.
So if any of you guys have anything you want to do, just start it.
Yeah.
So with that, what made that be your calling? What made you want to be like NetworKIT?
Yeah. So it's funny. As a kid, I've always been an extrovert, but I've definitely been overwhelmed at the idea of networking and meeting people. I've always enjoyed the experience of meeting people when there's no pressure. And so oddly enough, I ended up in a sales career, which is shocking. But what took me into sales was I was in an organization where I was getting experience just building relationships with clients, selling something that was kind of more consultative, which I felt was more natural, more authentic to who I am. And so through that, I was able to be successful in selling, but a lot of people around me were still kind of like a traditional salesy person, trying to get
the people we avoid.
Exactly. Trying to get people to buy something from them. But I was successful because I focused on the relationship first. And then as a result of building authentic relationships, the sales just naturally came. So then fast forward several years later after doing that, and being successful at that, and talking to people and learning that a lot of other people had the same challenges that I had. When you think of networking, you think of sales. I was like, oh, I think this is something I can teach people, because there were a lot of hacks that I was able to come up with, a lot of things that I was able to do to make it very simple and authentic. Versus, at the beginning of my sales career, you feel like you do have to be like other salespeople, and you have to, be a certain way, or you have to put on to try to make it happen. But I was really able to be myself and find one of the things I talk a lot about in NetworKIT is the goal is to find your people. Yeah. Everybody is not your person, people, right? Yeah. Everybody's not your people. And so when you focus on finding your people, I truly believe that everything you need comes as a result of that.
Yes.
Versus trying to find the sale or trying to find the client. And then you're trying to be somebody that you're not. And, so that's
it doesn't necessarily have to be a dog eat dog world. It doesn't have to be opportunistic.
Exactly.
I'm just going to talk to this person because I need X, Y, Z from them.
Exactly.
But I'm going to take the time to actually, listen to them, get to know them,
exactly,
and actually build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
So how do you get people to, because I know I'm one of these people.
Yeah.
So I know there's other people out there like that.
Yes.
You hear the term networking, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to network. And I know the depiction of it on TV or whatever is always people standing in a room, and it's like, It's like, okay. Or you're awkwardly standing in the room because you're
always awkwardly. Yeah.
How do you get, I guess, in a way, people to get over just the stigma of what networking is in order to be able to benefit from something like networking?
Yeah, for sure. I think that a lot of networking is centered around what you do for a living. And I think that is part of the issue, is that from my perspective, what somebody does for a living is actually the least interesting thing about them. And so I feel what makes networking awkward is you go up to somebody, you're like, hey, what do you do? And I feel like I'm on an interview. I have to I feel pressure to validate what I do. I feel pressure to try to explain in a way that makes you think that I'm, this, that, and the other. And so one of the first ways that I help people is for them to recognize that we're all multifaceted. And so first we have to recognize that we're multifaceted. And so when I'm interacting with somebody, the value that I have as a person or what I bring to a relationship or conversation is so much bigger than what I do for a living. So that's the first thing is recognize that I'm multifaceted. And when I can recognize that, then when I connect with other people, there are so many other things at an event or in an environment that I can use to strike up a conversation outside of just what do you do?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure you've experienced too, when you ask somebody, what do you do? And then you answer, And then like other person answers and you're like, okay. Right. You like walk away.
Nice talking to you.
Right, exactly. And especially like even like you could be at an industry event and have that exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when people break away from each other, it's because, oh, I don't need what you have.
Right.
Or you don't need what I have. And then you have the awkward, first you have the awkward meetup, then you have like the awkward breakaway. Like, okay, I don't need that. But we have this part of network that I call the 6 facets of connection. Mm-hmm. They have everything to do with like where someone's from or like the thing that they geek out on or something that they collect or something like, and so all of those things are things that can trigger connection with people. Yeah. That allow you to walk away from a conversation and be like, oh my gosh, I would like love to stay connected. And I think there's also some anxiety around like reconnecting with people that feels like you're asking them out on a date.
Right. Like, man, like I didn't do my job to stay connected. Now it's been like a year or whatever. How do I open that door again? Exactly.
So I try to give people really practical ways to kind of like break that down and see each person as a connection, not as a client.
Right. Or an opportunity.
Exactly. And I think the unique thing about my success in sales was that a lot of the clients I was able to bring in were clients that nobody would have ever seen coming.
Yeah.
Because on the front end, it looked like they didn't have budget or they didn't have opportunity and whatever. Because I led with connection. And I was like, I genuinely like spending time with this person. The opportunity would show up.
Yes.
So
really what worked for you was it turned into a marathon.
Yes.
Like, you know, it was like, okay, this is me building a relationship with this client and I'm in it for the long haul. Yes. So the long haul allowed for the sale to actually come through later.
For sure.
And I'm just touching base on that because I think it's important for someone to know, like when you're trying to connect with someone, even if what they do or what they're offering is not something you need, you never know what that person's role can be in your life later. 100%. So it doesn't mean walk away from the opportunity to get to know them.
Exactly.
Or vice versa.
Exactly. And I think another part of that too is like when you are truly committed to like growing your connections with people, you see yourself as a resource for others as well. So, and I feel like you're definitely like this, where you meet someone, you may not need what they have, but because you're a connector, you're like, oh, I might know somebody else who needs what they have. So when you're not so selfish and so focused on what you need, when you interact with someone, even if you don't need it, you have the ability to see, I might know somebody else that needs that. And so by making yourself a resource, it also makes it easier to connect with people because you have something to offer more than what it is that you sell or whatever you're trying to do. Yeah. You're a resource. Like, I know this person can offer that to you, or I can connect these people and that kind of thing. So,
and why do you feel like network is important, like in today's society? Yeah. It doesn't have to be 2025, but just in general, us being in like the 2000, whatever.
Yeah, I know, whatever. 20.
All right, I was going to say millennium, but I don't even know if that's still a thing. I don't know.
Like, how far in the millennium do you get?
Right.
Like, you like still call it the millennium? I think, so one of the things I like to say is, I love technology. I appreciate technology. Well, I know you'll agree with me on this, like being like a 90s kid. Like, I feel like the 90s was like the perfect blend. Like, we had just enough technology for it to be convenient, but we didn't have so much of it that like
oversaturate.
And so one of the things I like to say is, let's make sure that technology is adding efficiency and not removing authenticity.
Yes.
And so I feel like because we have access to so much technology now, it makes it easy for us to rely on it so much that we're like, oh, instead of networking, I'll just go to LinkedIn. Yeah. And LinkedIn is a great tool. It's a great thing that we have, but like, it should not be replacing our ability to like be out and like hang out with people. And like, same thing with social media. Like, sometimes we have the, idea that we're connected to people because we know they just celebrated a birthday or anniversary or whatever because we saw it on social media. But there's so much that you get from spending time with someone in person, exchanging energy with them, and really like talking about things like kind of like beyond surface level. Yeah. And that's something else I noticed in my sales career, is that there were like very formal things that occur in my industry that transact sales, like RFPs and like, emails and that kind of thing. But there were so many more important nuggets that I would get from just sitting cross-legged at a coffee shop with somebody in yoga pants.
Right.
And you get all these nuances and all these nuggets of information that would never be typed out, that would never show up in any formal communication. And so I think that really in every type of relationship in our lives, that is important. But I think that, to answer your question, I feel like it's the presence of technology that it's great that we have it, but sometimes we use it as a crutch.
Absolutely. And I think the crutch is also not even a conscious thing. Sometimes I think it's just subconsciously like, because like this made me think of Facebook when it first got started. And like over the years, I was like, how relevant will family reunions be if you have Facebook? At the time it was just Facebook for the most part. And it's like, I really do feel like when you see people constantly, you feel like you're seeing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True, yeah.
And it's like, you're not really seeing them and you're not really interacting with them, but it makes you feel like you have been involved in their life because you're constantly seeing like them come across your grid or your whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So I do see how that can really actually affect like, you know, someone making connection, and not just a connection for opportunity, but connection for, family, like and friends.
And I feel like the start of Facebook is actually a really good point. Like when Facebook started, of course we were in college, like early in college when Facebook started, like we had cell phones, but we couldn't do everything that we can do with cell phones. And like you had to be connected to a school, and it was like you were in your college or university, and it was a way for you to connect with your friends that you went to high school with and went to different college or universities. So I feel like that was like a point in time where the technology was useful to stay in touch with people, but it wasn't like this overwhelming way. Yeah. Where like now, like my neighbor lives 3 houses down. I don't see them in person, but I'm like, oh, I saw that on you know social. They blah blah blah. Right. So it's like it's helpful and we should use it. But I think the scales have been tipped for quite some time now.
Absolutely. I think all innovation doesn't necessarily mean it's good innovation. Yeah. So I think we're off the guardrails. Like, you need guardrails, but I think we're off the guardrails. Yeah. Sure. But it brings me into my next topic, which is the dead internet theory. So I'm going to read off my phone the definition because I want to get your thoughts on this. So the dead internet theory suggests that much of what we see online today isn't real. So AI, bots, and automated content are dominating digital spaces, making it harder to even find genuine human connections. But I wanted to get your thought on that because I mean, social media's here. I don't know if it's going anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's here to stay.
But because it does alter like our human connections. Yeah. And also it's very draining. Yes. So I feel like how to like motivate someone to actually want to go out and connect with people when you might be drained from like all the, you know, the interacting on social media.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good question. Well, I think how I try to help people with this is really not encouraging them to get off of digital, but kind of like recognize what your experience is with digital and then recognize what your actual experience is with people. So one of the things that I remember in our launch session of NetworKIT, I kind of like surveyed the room and like asked people like, how many of us are like invited to something and you're like, oh, it sounds like a great idea. But you like talk to like, oh, I don't know if I want to go because then I got to get up and I got to get dressed. I got to do all the things, you know, whatever. And then, you know, you have like some scenarios where you decide not to go and you're like, I'm just too tired because I have all these things going on, right? And then you have those moments where you do break through and you decide to go. You're almost always like, I'm so glad I did this. Like, because there's just this authenticity of the exchange of energy with people. Yeah. It's just different. So I think I try to encourage people just to like keep them in their rightful place and to like, you know, they should like, it should be a supplement to like, you know, hang out with people. I think that, it's also about just like prioritizing the human connection. So in addition to technology, I think that we're also like more overwhelmed than we've ever been before, right? All of the technology that we have gives us efficiency, but with the efficiency, we've just like made more room for things. Right. So it's like, it's like a very strange thing, right? So now it's like, we're so busy, we commute, we, you know, even if we work from home, now we're working longer hours because we're working from home. And then, you know, we have life in and that kind of thing. So it can be challenging to see that there's a benefit in prioritizing human connection. Yeah. So I try to encourage people by starting kind of like little by little, right? So not saying like, okay, don't do any social media and like meet 3 people every day, you know, that kind of thing. But I try to encourage people to like be in touch with how they feel when they like leave the presence of somebody that they haven't seen in a while. Yeah. Somebody that they are like good friends with and maybe they, you know, just text and just call, which is fine sometimes in different seasons of life. But like when you finally like sit down with that person, have a coffee or, you know, just hang out or even just in people's living rooms, like it doesn't have to be like a thing. Yeah. I talk a lot about like unstructured time with people. Just observing how you feel when that's done. I think that's really what encourages people to recognize I actually need more of this.
So it's really not about getting off of social media, but it's like, just remember it's a tool. It shouldn't be your all in everything. Yeah. Because I know like I may be different because I do like talking to people. Yeah. But I do know like for me, when you do get those moments in your life where you're able to talk to someone, whether it's friend or whatever, or business opportunity, they are nice moments. Well, if the energy's good, let me say that. If the energy's good. But I know I'm appreciative of those moments because sometimes we get so caught up in our routine of things.
Yep.
And you don't know you need something different until that different thing happens.
Yes.
And then you're like, dang, that was refreshing. I'm glad I did this.
Yeah.
I'm glad I talked to this person, or I'm glad I did get off social media for a little bit, or I'm even glad I took this trip, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that helps to reset.
It does.
Kind of like your mind. Like it helps to kind of reset your mind.
Yeah.
And
it's refreshing.
Yes. And it's prepare you more to be like, I want that feeling again.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. And so that's why so back to like the unstructured, I feel like what you just described is exactly what like unstructured time gives us, because back to like technology and efficiency, nowadays, most of our time is structured, right? I'm going to a meeting. We're going to discuss this topic.
Yes.
I'm going to such and such house. It's a birthday party. It's a baby shower. It's like, all this time is planned. We know exactly what we're going to do with someone.
Yeah.
When we have unstructured time to just connect and be like, hey, let's just go hang out. Like you said, when the energy's good, it just flows. And then stuff comes up that you just don't. It's a break from the routine.
Yes.
And so, you know, it's similar to the science that that shows how boredom, the reason why so much creativity comes out of boredom is because you're allowed to just like kind of like wander.
Yes.
And so when we do that in our relationships, the same thing happens. Like, I mean, have you ever been with somebody you've known for a long time? Like, I didn't know you liked that or enjoyed that.
Right.
Or were upset. Like, it's a cool thing to just allow those things to happen.
Yes.
And the more that we can create unstructured time with people that we find that we connect with, the more we can create those pathways.
Yes. I also think what's important, because I feel like it could be lacking a little bit. I don't know if it's lacking with us in our generation or it's becoming more of an issue, but talking with people helps your communication skills.
Yes.
As opposed to online with a lot of people, we operate out of like, what do you call it? Like a knee-jerk reaction as opposed to like really taking the time to think.
Yeah.
So I think human connection or even using something like NetworKIT will help with your communication skill. It also will help with your critical thinking skill.
Yep.
Because if you use a lot of like digital platforms, and it's not just social media, but like AI is a thing now.
Yep.
I think it's important to still use your mind. AI is a tool too, but you shouldn't use it for everything because you do lose that ability to critical think or even to have an imagination.
Yep.
So, which I also think helps when you're talking with people because you're able to kind of like riff in the conversation better when you are allowing your brain to like exercise, if that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So here's like a kind of a literal example that happens in my business, right? So you get an RFP from someone and you have questions and you email the questions back, right? So you type the questions about the RFP in a formal way, right? Like, hey, did you want this? Did you want that? Blah, 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 right? When you send it back to someone, because email is the format, there's nothing wrong with this, but to your point, they have to email back something kind of static, right?
Yeah.
So they have to, I mean, they might ramble on, but they have to answer it in a kind of finite way, right? Whereas in response to an RFP, if you're sitting with someone and you read it and you give a response, you say, hey, I know you said this. It made me think of this. What are your thoughts on that? Like, even the way you ask the question can be different, right? You can just kind of like let your words kind of flow and kind of like reframe it to your point of like getting better at communication. Like, okay, well, what I mean is this. Then you get an answer and you go, oh, okay, well, what I meant was, and then you have this like dialogue back and forth that took maybe it was like 5 or 10 minutes, right? In person. Whereas in an email, you have to wait for the response, then the response back. And then it's just, sometimes you just have to be short just because you got to move on to the next thing. So there's just so much that comes out of like dialogue in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just cut short in technology. And again, it's good that we have it, but when that's the only thing that we do, we just miss out on.
Yeah. And there's no emotion in messaging. So email, text messaging, whatever, there isn't any emotion there.
Yeah.
So, and it's not even accurate if a person puts an emoji because it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what they're feeling in that moment. They just might have want to make it sound a little bit more like, you know. So I do think there's that to consider when you are emailing. But to your point, like, 'cause I do that. Like if I'm emailing, I'm still nice, but it's like I'm more just like going to answer the question. I'm not going to go into like detail, or if I have to go into detail, I will. But it's still going to be more like a concise answer than it will be like, oh, you know, because just a little like because like do you have some people out there, and this is no shade if you do, but maybe it is shade. I don't know. But you have some people out there that will like text you and be like, what would it be like? It'll be like, hey, Camia. And they're literally waiting for me to respond to the text message before they fill me. It's like, just fill me in. Like, like, why do we have to wait?
Yeah.
You know, just, you can still say, hey, Cameo, but just write the rest of it because it's text messages. When I see it, I'll see it and I'll be able to answer it. Yeah. And it's almost like interesting to me, the people that will treat text messaging like a conversation. Yeah. And it's like, it's not a conversation. Like, you don't have to like move in that space that way. But I find it very fascinating because I'm like, because, you know, because it becomes with anxiety because you're like, okay, what are you reaching out for? Like, you know, I don't want to like, you know, be like, am I available? Am I not available? I don't know what you want. But anyway, I digress. That was a little tangent.
No. It's a good tangent. Oh, one other thing I was going to say too, when you talked about like explaining like something about email, I think that is also very, very relevant with like gaps in communication. Like, so there are times where you reach out to someone and they don't respond, right? There's like a gap in response. And so we tend to, as humans, create this story in our head of like why they didn't respond, right? Yeah. And for a lot of us also, I mean, I fall in this bucket for sure. Like, oh, was this something I did? Is it like, you just like, you just kind of like spiral into it. Like, you know, oh my gosh. But back to like not having the time to like type out everything that's going on. Like if somebody like just experienced something devastating in their family, like they're not going to on every email like, hey, sorry, I can't respond to you right now. This is everything that's going on. Like you can't do that. And so I think that there are just things that technology just doesn't make room for that are just part of the human experience. Yeah. And I don't think, I would hope not. Like, I don't think people would want that. Yeah. You know, even though we're all falling underneath that umbrella right now, I don't think people would want to not have connection. I don't think people would want to just live vicariously through social media. Yeah. You know? Because I find that to be weird. Like, you know, it's not the same. Is what I'm saying. It's not weird. What I found that was weird. I guess, well, it was weird when I looked back on it and I recognized why I actually started enjoying sales was because it just made the process more rewarding. Yeah. Because when the process is only about trying to get a new client or trying to get this or trying to get that, when you get it, you're like, okay, cool, I'm moving on. Yeah. But there are people who I built relationships with who we never ended up doing business together, but became great friends, or people that we weren't great friends in the beginning and then we ended up being able to do business together. Like it just makes the process so much more rewarding. And I also found that when we spent time together, we probably only talked about business 20% of the time. Right. 80% of the time we're talking about like, how are you surviving? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you do your laundry? Like, how do you grocery shop? What shows are you watching? And those conversations are just so much more interesting.
They are. I mean, I would be interested in it. Yeah. I don't know if everyone does this, but sometimes I get, it just know thyself. Like, I'm not someone who leans into a lot of like, what is it? Motivational, like, speaking and stuff like that. And it's not because there's anything wrong with that. I think it's a very important aspect of life, but I'm just not, I guess I'm more self-motivated. So like, for me, it's not always that I need to be like, you can do it. Cause it's like, I know I can do it. It's just doing it. But I think that, because I am that way, I may not gravitate towards that kind of space, but I do think it's beneficial. So even talking with someone who may need that or may not need it, I don't know. Yeah. It still can develop like a good relationship a little bit. And so I don't know. I kind of don't remember where I was going with this, but anyway, I digress. But with networking, I've been to, of course, sessions, workshops. We'll call them workshops. I was like, sessions? I don't know. And they're quarterly, right?
So now they're monthly.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So now they're monthly. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been to a few. I think that they are great. I think that they're very beneficial. And of course, I've seen you kind of like, you know, morph, if you will, because
a lot of more
trial and error.
Yes.
Do A/B testing. If you're starting anything, just do A/B testing. Get out there and do it and see what people, what their, you know, their, what do you call it? The suggestion. Yeah. Like the suggestion box. But of course, I've been through some, and I think that they're very beneficial. And I think that the people that I've met there have been really cool too. It's kind of hard to always like hold on to those relationships in general. I met really cool people there, by the way, you guys. I'm the problem. I would say I'm the problem. I haven't done the homework. And the homework being like reaching out to them and maintaining those connections. Mind you, I am someone who likes to connect. Yeah. And I'm talking about this and I'm talking to you guys just because there's probably people out there like me too who do like to talk to people.
Yeah.
But for some reason I prioritize like, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to get this done.
Yeah.
It's like, I hear you connect, but at the same time, I'm like, I got to get XYZ done.
Yeah.
And the connecting thing will come later.
Yeah.
What's your advice for anybody who's like me, like, who's like, I do like to talk to people, but at the same time, it's like,
yeah,
I'm gonna do this first.
So it's funny because, okay, so you mentioning that you come and obviously like we're really good friends. One of the things that's been really helpful in this journey is like the feedback that you've given me like from the sessions, right? And we've gotten that in person, right? We've gotten that like you like, okay, this really landed. I was kind of fuzzy on this. I was kind of that. So one of the things that I'm implementing in the newer sessions is kind of helping people connect those dots easier. Because to your point, like, you know, the homework in the beginning was like, oh, do this. And if you feel like it, it's like you said, like all the other things get in the way. So, so for like the upcoming sessions, I have more structure to help people prioritize it, help them keep it kind of like closer to the front of their face, like kind of documenting like who those people are and then kind of creating the touch points for them of like when they should kind of look at that list again and reconnect those people and taking the suggestions from the course and kind of putting them in writing. So it's the work is kind of done for you. Yeah. Versus to your point, kind of what you experienced, like the end of the session is like, oh, you know, you should do this, you should do that. But just like more structure and more in writing when someone's like, okay, I'm going to commit like, you know, once a week, I'm going to look at this list. So you have the list and you know what you need to do next. Yeah. Versus it being kind of like more loose. So that's something that I'm implementing thanks to your feedback to make it easier for people to make it more actionable for them. Yeah. Yeah, because that's the action part was where I was happening. We talked about this before. This is a tangent, but like, definitely, I think we both relate to this. Definitely one of those people, like, if we don't act quickly, then we'll just be like, well, moment's gone. Yeah, so, for sure. So I appreciate, you know, you going through the motions, making the updates to NetworKIT. Are there any success stories from NetworKIT or any, it could be from homework too. I know there's been many people in the sessions. Yeah. So, so I actually have a person in the course who's actually a salesperson, which is great. So the people who attend NetworkIT are kind of like a mix of like, you know, small business owners, entrepreneurs, and then like I have like 2 people in the course who are actually salespeople. And so one woman who's a salesperson, right after she did the first session, or when we were doing the second session, when it was quarterly, she was telling me just how much easier it was for her to reach out to people for meetings and different things like that, like things that lead to the business. Yeah. Because of how it helped her kind of like reframe the connection point. Because when you are, so let's say you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, which I imagine a lot of people watching are, and you know you need clients like to grow your business, and you're kind of like, well, where do I get them? You kind of have like, it's kind of awkward talking about what you do and you want people to feel a certain kind of way. So a lot of what she got from the course allowed her to see her prospective clients as people other than just clients. So she said that literally like a weight was lifted when she was reaching out to people and connecting with them, like asking for meetings, getting in front of people. And she actually had sales impact. I need to quantify this. I should have this like right. But she told me like she noticed like an immediate impact on her actual business that she closed. As a result of being able to see people differently. No, I like that. I think a key point of what you just said and what she shared with you is that she didn't look at them as just clients. Yeah. And I think that's an important thing for anybody who may struggle with networking or unsure about what direction to go with networking or how to utilize it now in such a digital space. It's like, just look at people as human because you're a human. Yeah. Like you talked about. It's like, so I think that's super important. So we have come to the end, but I have enjoyed having you on here, Carline. Thank you so much for having me. No, absolutely. First podcast. Check it out the list. No, but tell people where they can find you at, where they can come to NetworkIT, why they should come to NetworkIT. Yeah. We are on Instagram and LinkedIn at NetworkIT Coach. And if networking is something that you struggle with or something that you're overwhelmed by, but you also recognize that it's important for your business and building relationships, definitely check us out. We're kicking off our first series of 2025 this February. So it's 4 sessions back to back. And then probably this summer we'll kick off bring the mixers back. So at the mixers, it's a one-time workshop where we focus on how to navigate networking events more easily. because I was super awkward at networking events, and I mean, if I'm being honest, like, sometimes still am, but just like hacks to like make navigating networking events easier. So that's also something else we'll probably bring back this summer.
Oh, super cool! I'm excited about that. I think the mixers need to come back too.
Yeah.
So that was fun. I have fun at the mixers.
Yeah.
But anyway, go off and create. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and wherever you listen to podcasts. It's Go Off and Create the podcast. Bye.